Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another interview with one of my amazing clients. Today, we're going to be talking to Krissy Ferreira. Krissy Ferreira is the authority coach. Krissy is the authority coach. Krissy, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat today.
Tell us, the authority coach, what all do you do? Like what does the authority coach do for our clients?
I'm a content marketing consultant and I work with high achieving women. And I work with these women when they're ready to step into their authority, ready to re identify themselves as the authority online. They do that. Obviously, it's to gain clients, but it's also to start attracting the right types of clients, to start attracting the right types of people that they really want in their world, to build out the business that they really want, that they originally, started this business for. So that's what I do.
I love that. Before I jump right into that, I'm just going to start with what people really want to know because people who are watching these interviews, we are all entrepreneurs. So we always want to know, well, how much money did she make? What was the big result? So the big result that Krissy had working with me, first of all, Krissy, how long was the stint that you and I worked together?
About 18 months.
About 18 months. In that before you met me, what was the most amount of money that you had made in a year with your own business?
$20,000.
$20,000. And so in those 18 months, you crossed well over how much?
Well over 120,000.
Well over $120,000. That is big. That is huge, right? So I always ask my clients, how does that feel?
It feels like confirmation. It feels like confirmation, first of all, that I'm in the right field, right? I'm in my area of expertise. I'm where I'm meant to be. And it's validation for the risks that I took, leaving behind full-time job that I went to college for, as a mom with an infant at the time. Like, it's confirmation that all the risks that I took was great, was smart. It was valid. It wasn't, some people, when we leave certain jobs, we feel like we're maybe making a dumb move or a too risky of a move. It was very risky. I think entrepreneurship, no matter where your background is, it's risky, but it's validation to me that I made a smart choice.
I love that. Here's why I love that. Because when the average person hears, I think we're going to spend like the first 5 or 10 minutes talking about your story because it's important. I think that as entrepreneurs, we kind of even forget our story, and it's the reason why people can relate to us, right? So without divulging things that you don't want to divulge, because I'm not here, this is not Dear Diary or therapy or anything like that. But when people hear I went to college, they think, oh, she had parents. She had a loving home. It was supportive. Her parents sent her off to college. Krissy's like, girl, do you have a bottle of wine? Because we can talk about it.
And no.
And no. So tell people when you said, and I went to college for this career and I had a job. So first of all, tell us about your upbringing. Did you have a supportive home? Were your parents college graduates? Did you live in a home where you were expected to go to college? Because that's what they did.
So first of all, I was the first person in my family to ever graduate with a bachelor's degree on both my mother and my father's side. So let me start off with saying that. So I was a foster kid. I grew out of the foster system at 18. I was in the foster system twice. First when I was 5 for about a year, and then when I was 13 and on. Luckily, I did end up getting full rights were granted over to an aunt of mine, so I wasn't in a foster home when I aged out at 18. But I did go to, I don't know, probably about a dozen different foster homes, me and my younger siblings. So that's my upbringing. As far as like where that was, when it comes to college, I ended up starting about 2 years after high school. So the original plan was to, take a year off. That didn't happen because unfortunately I did move out on my own at 18. I got my own apartment, car, was working part-time at Walmart, which is where I met my now husband. And, I ended up going back to school part-time when I was 20. And it took me about 6 years to actually get my degree because I was working full-time and I had to, pay all my bills myself. It took me about six years to get a college degree because I had to go part-time and go like on my days off when I wasn't working, or go at night classes 2 days a week. And so, yeah, I got a bachelor's degree in psychology. And, because I come from the foster care background, I felt like, oh, I made it out of the system. So, I'm going to give back was my initial plan when I got my degree. And so I worked with kids with disabilities. I also worked in the school system. And my last job was working as a teacher assistant at the school department. So that's a little bit of my background.
Okay, so let's go there. It took you 6 years. So by 26, you had your degree?
Yep, 2016, yep.
Okay, so then how old are you now?
I am 33.
And when did you start your business? You got your bachelor's degree, you graduated around 26, got a job, and then when did you start your business? At how many years after that?
29, when I was 29, 2000.
So you worked for 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
and at 29, you start your business. Did you also leave your full-time job at 29?
I did. About 6 months into my business, I left my job.
And how much was your job paying you at the age of 29 with a bachelor's degree that took you 6 years to get?
I was making around 35,000.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, because so many people feel like, oh my God, she left us. She went to college. She had a degree and she had a career making 35. Like,
Yeah.
First of all, this is sidebar. I don't know why teachers don't get paid better. Like when I see the basketball players and the football players landing, $750 million 10-year contracts, I'm like, but a teacher deposited into him. Teachers deposited into him. Like, why are the teachers getting a $250 million contract for, the next 10 years? Like, for real. Yeah. That's how I feel. I also want to just bring to the light, because so many women in who become entrepreneurs have a giving heart. They used to be nurses or therapists or social workers or like a nurse or a doctor, because they have this giving heart. And somewhere along the line, when we make it out of hardships, we feel that we have to give back. You said those words. Like I felt like I wanted to give back. And I always say to my clients, but you didn't take anything.
Mm-hmm.
What are you giving back for? I get the sentiment. We are women. We're nurturers. We're moms, right? Like we're giving. What are you giving back, boo? You didn't take nothing. You didn't take anything. You don't got to give nothing back. But I get what that means. So you meet me at that point. You'd made
I would say, because I had started my business in 2020, and so I met you in July of 2021. So at that point, I did 20K my first year in business. And then in leading up to, I know my total was the end of 2021. I don't know how much I was making exactly right before we started working together, but I was making around the same amount each month that I had been making in 2020.
So one of the things that I have realized, not just since meeting you, but since working with so many women, like when we come into the internet space, we are taught to create a client avatar. Like, who is our ideal client? And normally we're like, well, my ideal client is a woman who has a business and she hasn't figured out her content marketing and she doesn't know how to launch and she da. And those are actually surfacey. We want to call her a high performing woman, right? But because I've worked with so many clients, I've been able to see the biggest common denominator amongst all my clients of every age, because I work with clients as old as 65 and I work with clients as young as 26. Okay. These are the age ranges of my clients, but they all, and I'm talking about 100% of my clients have this one thing in common. They have overcome the most difficult life shit. Their life has been a boot camp of having a baseball bat and batting the bullshit that life dealt them. They never went into the corner and crawled in there like, they never are on Zoloft. And I'm not saying that if you don't need Zoloft, don't get on Zoloft. But my clients don't make excuses. My clients are used to taking risks, So when they make a big investment like the ones you made with me, even though it was scary, you were already a homeowner. When I met you, you had sold your home. When I met you, not only had you overcome all the foster pass, whatever, your brother-in-law had just passed. You were overcoming that. You were remodeling a home that you were buying. Like, you were doing so many things that I hadn't done at my age. But it's not about comparing, it's about all of my clients. They already know how to make powerful decisions. Life has put them in a boot camp where they have to trust their gut, and they have calibrated highly that they don't make bad decisions, because you could have been any type of woman coming from the past that you had with in and out of foster homes and then living with your aunt and da 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 da. And many women in your position would have chosen an abusive spouse. You have the most amazing marriage.
Thank you.
Like, I've always given you so much credit. I'm like, Krissy, if I knew what you know at when I was your age, I would be Oprah. Like, how many times have I told you that?
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't, like maybe watering it down. So I wanted to spend that time in the very beginning of this combo, because people want to know, well, how much money did she make? She made over $120,000 working with me at the age of 31, because you were like 31 when we stopped working together, right? And so a few things, we stopped working together, and I wasn't like, well, peace out, girl, I don't talk to you no more. How does that feel?
So let me just say this, okay? So I've worked with, I'm not going to say I've worked with dozens of people, because that's not true. I typically, when I work with someone for like 6 months or more. So I haven't worked with dozens and dozens of coaches, but I've worked with a handful. And I think one thing that I really appreciated this year is that, and I also did the same thing with my clients, is even though we're no longer working together, I know you're there, right? And I don't mean from a sense of like, oh, I can pick your brain whenever I need to. That's not what I mean. It's more so I know you're watching. And so when you respect someone, or when you view someone as when you have a mentor, we all want our mentors to be proud of us, because I just feel like that's a natural feeling, is you want your mentors to do them proud. And I think if you look at any athlete, they look up to their mentors, their coaches the same way, and they can have a career of 20 years and they still look up to their mentors, and they still like love their mentors, like feedback and acknowledgement. And so for me, the fact that you did not like disappear meant a lot to me, because I have worked with many people, and once that contract ends, they don't know you anymore. And it's not that they owe you, but it doesn't take much. And you can be a millionaire, a multimillionaire. You can even have a team set up to follow up with people, even if it's not really you. You can still have people follow up with you. There's ways around it. But I think the check-ins, seeing your name on some of my comments, you sending me random voice clips, the silly reels that sometimes we send each other, that are business related nonsense, right? Just kind of lets me know, like, okay, she's still checking in on me. She's still there. And I think that's important, because it also infused kind of a good habit in my business, because most of my clients have worked with me 9 months or more. And I actually had 2 clients that came back to me this fall that stopped working with me in the spring, that I didn't reach out to and ask. They reached back out to me to work with me. And I think one of the reasons that is because I know how good it feels to have a past mentor stay in your life. And I wanted to do the same. So I feel like that, to me, makes you unique, but it also shows that like you care. And I think that I actually personally don't understand why people don't follow up with other people, because I want to see how my clients have grown, and I know, like, I'm sure in your situation, like it makes me feel good to show you, like, I've grown up a lot. And, even when me and you were having this conversation right before we hopped on, and we were kind of like, reflecting on some things, it's funny to look back at, thinking about the Voxer message. I know we're going to get there in a second, but thinking about the Voxer messages, or where I was mentally, it's kind of like when you think about your mindset when you were in your 20s, or your mindset in high school, and you laugh because maybe there was a boyfriend that you had in high school, and you're like, why was I even upset? Or in your 20s, when you had a certain mindset around something, why was I so stupid? Why did I think that? Why did I say that? And it's funny because it's the same thing just from like 2 years ago. Like, my mindset was so differently, and you kind of look back at yourself and you laugh a little bit because you're like, why was I like that? And it's not because it's because we've grown and we can see the bigger picture now because we're no longer in that area. But having you constantly like stay in my circle has been like really, really, I don't know, really beneficial to me, and it feels really good.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you at the same time. I always teach my own children that relationships are the most important thing in life, not money. Because if you have great relationships and you don't have money, someone can introduce you to someone can open a door, you can sell something, right? Someone can give you a job. Like, literally, I know people are like, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. Exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
when you have relationships are the currency. So my relationships don't end with my clients because they paid me, because I live in a very gratitude space every morning. Like, for the grace of God, women see the value in working with me. Then they see the value in themselves. Then they unleash this part of them that they didn't know, this identity shift. And then they keep growing and they keep paying me. And I'm just so blessed that this is what God deposited in my life. How could I be like, well, God, she's not paying me no more, so she can go kick rocks? Because I've had clients come back 2 years later. Linda, I want to work with you again. I'm gonna say something that's a little braggadocious. Girl, I've been everywhere. No coach. I didn't have no access to Voxer on them. I couldn't contact them. I expect that now. I know you went over there and paid 35 for the year and couldn't even send them a Facebook Messenger, couldn't contact them. My clients have my phone number, like my phone number, because I started from the bottom. Now I'm here too. I just started making, this is new money. This is what we call new money, Krissy. Like, we didn't inherit. We don't come from old money. All we're doing is new. So in 2019, I was like, I'm not about to pay nobody a freaking car, the amount of a car, and I can't reach them. I know you lying.
Well,
You
you know
know?
what? Well, you know what's funny is that like two things. First of all, I think like when you work with someone like you, it sets a certain expectation. And you because when you're new, when you're first hiring coaches, you don't know what to look for. And you hear people hear about bad coaching experiences. You don't know what a bad coaching experience is like because you've never experienced it. So
Because
you
you
don't
had
have a
such a
clue.
good one out the gate.
Well, I did work with one person right before you, so there was one comparison. But like going into coaches that I worked with after you, right? I'm not saying every coaching experience was bad. However, there was a certain level of expectation that I had set up for. And this is not talking down about anybody, but
I,
this is
I
just me
get
being
it.
honest. Is I did have one coach this year that I worked with, and I felt like she dropped the ball with me. And for me, like you said, the relationship is really important, where we had a call and she just canceled it and didn't tell me why. And it was a holiday, but it was on her calendar and I had booked the call because we're entrepreneurs. We work all the time. Some of us take holidays off, some of us don't. And so no reason why, no follow-up, nothing. It happened again. And then when we were about to end working with each other, there was no like goodbye call, like this is our final call. Didn't even realize my contract was ending, and we haven't spoken since. And like for me, it's like, and I worked with this person for 7 months. And so for me, like that just shows me like there is no I feel for me, I feel like, there should be a sense of like respect for your business, that we conduct business this way. Even my real estate agent that I've worked with before, I bought one house, I worked with that real estate agent, and she kept up with me for years between after I bought my second home. So when I was ready to sell my home and buy my next home, there was no doubt in my mind who I was going to reach out to. Because even the silly little Christmas cards that she sends every year, the emails, the happy birthday cards that me and my husband get, like I know they're through a system. I know she's not manually doing it, but she has set her business up in a way because she values the way her business is conducted, and it benefits her because I feel valued. I feel seen as a client. I feel it's not, oh, I paid you all this money, so you owe me all this stuff. That's not about that. I feel valid. I feel seen. And so when experiencing someone working with you, that I have a certain like expectation of how I run my business, but also how I expect to be like treated, especially in like in the industry for women. I feel like, all of us are always aiming to do business differently, where we're so used to, white men running businesses a certain way. And now we're all talking about running businesses different. And so in my mind, if you work with women, we're emotional. Like, we want to feel, we want to get that text back. We want, even my husband of 17 years, I still expect him to do certain things. I still have expectations from him. It doesn't just go away. And so I feel like the same thing is for business, and the way you conduct your business for your future clients, for your current clients, and for your past clients. If not, those are the most important people to keep a relationship with, because those are your referrals. Those are the people that are going to share their history around with you. Like, we're talking a year later, me and you, and I'm still able to share my experience working with you. Like, there's value in your clients, like not just the work you do with them too. So just wanted to share that.
No, Krissy, thank you for sharing that, because we've all heard like, oh, money changes people or money is evil, but money only brings out more of who you are. And who I really am at my core is a mom. I was not raised to be a bad bitch or a boss babe. Like seriously, some of us were raised like, you become independent and don't depend on no man. I was raised to depend on a man. I was raised to be a mom and a wife. And so I love being a mom. My biggest identity, the biggest identity that I hold, that I don't really want to let go of, because I don't see anything wrong with it, is a nurturer. But so many people are like, but Linda's so direct. Dude, I just got a lot of bass in my voice. You know what I'm saying? It's just deep. But I am a mom. And so much so that, and we're not going to say the specifics, but I have conversations with all my clients, not just with you. Like, you better get out with hubby tonight. You better get off these social media streets and do a little something with your man.
And so, I was gonna say, it's funny that you mentioned like that you were raised like, like you weren't told like to be independent, right? You were raised like, from a man. It's funny because it's like, you think, well, how was I raised? And for me, it's like, well, for me, I never had a stable male like in my life. I had a stepdad that was horrible, a father in and out of prison, who's still in and out of prison. And like, for me, I think like I didn't have what am I looking for? Like consistent role model in my life, right? I didn't actually have much of a role model in my life. And so I had to become my own. Like, I was the role model in my family, and there was no one to really look to. And so for me, I think loyalty is really important, because there was a lack of loyalty growing up. And so for me, I think that's one of the things I look for. Is I think loyalty is important, because like loyalty shows you care. Loyalty is stability. And I think in business, we all crave stability, and we crave loyalty within our company. We crave loyalty within our customers. And for me, like when you're looking for mentorship, I think loyalty is a really big and like part of that.
That's such a wonderful insight, right? Like, for the people who are watching, this is what coaching does, right? Coaching happens in the most amazing organic conversations. Two people are sharing, right? Questioning, answering feedback, conversing, and one person says something and it lands. Usually it's your coach, but right now it was Krissy. Krissy said something and it landed with me. And this is where transformation happens. It happens inside of insight. And insight is not like a big hit with a bat. Insight has a particular sound. It usually goes like this. When you have that, or when your client has that, let it sit. Transformation is happening. What you just said for me, I was like, whoa, because loyalty is one of my biggest values, right? But I never really had a client mirror it, throw it back to me like that. Like, thank you for that. That's so big. You were like, man, I became the thing that I didn't have. And I think every powerful boss babe, girl boss, has done that, right? There are memes running around the internet. I've become the man that I needed. I've become the father that my children didn't have. And so anyway, that sidebar. This conversation has been organically going about our state of being. For those of you that are watching, all of these things, all the money that Krissy made working with me, that happened because she stepped into a way of being. She had to work through a lot of, if you know me, I say this phrase a lot, mind fuckery, shit from the past that kept coming up. And she didn't realize that it was from the past. It was like, I didn't know how to charge. I was scared to charge more. That came from insecurities from her past. Totally understandable based on the past that she had. But she had not made those connections. Right. And sometimes she would send me a 7-minute voice boxer. I'd be like, I'm not listening to that, Krissy. that was but Krissy needed to send a 7-minute clip. And would you agree, Krissy, that the most powerful coaching happens inside of that Voxer back and forth?
Oh, Vox, yeah. Like, because you know what I think it is? Like, this is me personally. Because you know how you said you got to sit with it? You got to let them sit with it. Sometimes when you're having a coaching conversation, it can be a little bit hard. Not that you can't sit with something, right? Because it's like all about giving space and giving room to like really sit with it. But with Voxer, it does. It gives you time in between to be able to like listen to a message and like really listen to it, replay it, slow it down, speed it up, whatever. It gives you that opportunity to like really sit with it before you respond, because sometimes we can react when we're talking like this because we're expected to say something. And so Voxer is powerful. I think Voxer is the best part of coaching.
It is, because the thing that I mentioned at the beginning of this the beginning of this interview was that all of my clients have overcome life stuff. They've literally have learned to trust their gut. But when it comes to their own business, they don't realize how they can transfer that trust into their business. And many times you would send me Voxer clips and I would say, Krissy, you just answered your own question. You're so powerful. You're such a badass. Listen to your Voxer again and then tell me what the answer is. And then you would do that and you would answer. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how many times were you triggered AF that you literally were pissed off at me? Be honest.
Probably a 10.
A 10. Yeah. I said some really bold shit.
Mm-hmm.
Really bold things. Even I, as bold as I am, I'm like, whoa, that was bold, girl.
But Voxer gave you the opportunity to do that, because I think sometimes, like when we're comfortable, like, you know, because sometimes like, maybe you weren't sitting at your desk and maybe you were sitting on your couch or you're sitting, you know, whatever you're doing. I think it can allow us to be a little bit more, because I find that I'm more bold with my clients through Voxer sometimes. I think because of the setting. I think because we're in front of a computer. So I'm not saying you can't be bold in front of a computer.
I get it.
But it's different, you know?
Yeah. So like if I'm watching my favorite show on Netflix or whatever, and you send me a Voxer at 10 p.m., I'm looking at you like this. What are you doing sending me a fucking Voxer at 10 p.m.? Why aren't you doing something with your man or sleeping? Instead, your mind is racing about your business. So I already know I'm about to put my foot in your butt. You know, that's what you mean. You know, it's that depending on the setting where you're at, I'm like, I know. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, girl, it's Sunday at 8 p.m. I know, but I'm just getting ready for my business, for my week next week. Chill out. Right? So if you could explain to people in your own words, what were the biggest shit? What was, because we know that you learned new skill sets. Like you learned the skill set of re-signing clients because you learned a standard of excellence that I had for my business that you'd like to emulate in your business. You like the relationship building. You like being real. And you give your clients results. It's not like, let me take that back. We don't give anyone results. We work with people that have the highest probability of getting results with us because they do the work. We can't do results for anyone, right? But that's just the phrase that we use in this space. Like we give client results, right? And so you're able to do that because you have always been the client that you wanted to attract. How much money did you end up paying me? I'm not going to say what the investment was. How much money did you end up paying me in those 18 months?
$40,000.
$40,000. And so with that 40K, here's what I want to do for people before I ask you to explain to folks. So from that 40K, you ended up making $120,000. And even if you never got better, which you will, because ever since me, you've worked with other coaches, you've honed in other skill sets. but you know how to make $120,000. You know how to do that because you have evidence of it. It wasn't by mistake. It wasn't a fluke, right? So, and let's just say that you're 30. We know that you're 32, 33, whatever, but I like keeping you young. So let's just say that you're 30 and the average person is going to work until they are 65, right? So that means that you have 35 years left in you of work. You might even work. Bob Proctor died in his 80s working because he loved what he does. But we're just saying, we're just going to keep it average, right? Let's say you never get better. You never learn how to make more than 120 per year. You just don't, okay? So we're going to go 120,000 times 35 years. That's $4,200,000 that your $40,000 gave you back and invest in return. If you're watching and you're an entrepreneur, you need to see how your client's upfront investment is a drop in the bucket compared to the skill you're going to teach them. Because the reason Krissy made 120 wasn't really so much because I taught her how to raise her price. It's because of who she became. So now, Krissy, I want you in your own words to say that process of becoming confident, becoming the woman that can make six figures at your age. That's freaking amazing. Tell us how that feels to you, or if you could like pinpoint, these are the ways of being. This is what I had to do.
Well, let me just say this is that when we first started working together, I was like in this massive like victim mode for me. We like you mentioned earlier, we had just had a loss in the family. My husband's brother passed away, I've been dating my husband for 17 years. So like that was like my brother, you know? And so I've known him a long time. And we just sold a house, bought a new one, was in the process of it. We were staying with his brother when he passed away because we were in between houses. And then, my son was only 2. And so there was, you go through postpartum. And so like I was going through a lot of shit at once. And so when I met Linda, it felt like the worst time, but it was also the best time. In fact, that was probably one of my biggest like hesitations at first was, am I mentally ready because I knew like from just watching you, right? This is before we even hopped on the sales call, because I wasn't going to hop on a sales call until I was ready. But I had to say to myself, am I ready to do this work? Am I ready to work with someone of this caliber? Am I ready to work with someone who talks like this, who speaks like this, who because I'd already had a good sense. I'd been following you, watch your videos. Well, this was Clubhouse. This was 2021. So
you were on Clubhouse, dude.
Clubhouse. You guys think about it. So, I had heard, Linda in rooms and talked to Linda in rooms. So like, so I knew what you were about. And so I had to ask myself if I was ready for it. And for me, like, I just wanted something so different. Like I knew without looking back now, like, from the outside, like looking back, is that I needed to identify as something different. I couldn't identify as the grief mode, the stay-at-home mom mode. Our relationship was really rocky back then, like a marriage that was struggling at that time. Someone who was depressed, someone who was feeling like postpartum and like I was miserable. Like and even though I had been working from home, like I felt like I was so unhappy with my life at that time. And like I felt like I needed to identify with everything but that. Like I needed something different. I needed a challenge. I needed a way to get out. And so I was looking for a complete shift in identity. I didn't want to identify with those things. It's not like it was something where I woke up and I was like, oh, like, I want to stay stuck. Like I knew I was capable of like feeling and my life being a different way because I knew I'd overcome so much more, And so for me, I'm like, this isn't how my chapter ends. This isn't who I'm going to be for the rest of my life. I'm young. I have a young kid. I don't want him to have a mom who is like stressed out and depressed all the time because I grew up like that and I refused to repeat that cycle. And so I think looking back for me, I needed to be around somebody and have the level of support that like would not allow me to sit in that feeling anymore. Like every time I sent a Voxer or anytime we had a conversation and I like would identify with that victim mode, you would not feed into it. You would not let me feed into it. Like, no matter how, like, sometimes, like, because this is why sometimes it's you can't be around people with the same negative mindset, because they'll feed into it. Other your business besties that are like, oh, sales are slow. You're right, sales are slow. It's okay. We can take a couple days. Like, you be around people who feed into the bullshit, and you would not let me feed into the bullshit at all. And so I needed that. Like, so for me, I think that was the biggest thing, is that I would try, because it's like our brain, our body, it tries to play it safe. We try to protect ourselves, and we almost feel like it's like when you're on a diet and you tell yourself, it's okay. You can eat this. You deserve it. That's what my brain was doing all the time. You deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve it. It's okay. It's not your fault. You're the victim. Shit is hard. You wouldn't let me fall into that victim mode, even though it was like I was trying. That's what those 7-minute Voxer messages were. Me trying to compensate, fall into, stay in the same cycle. And so for me, I think the biggest thing for me was allowing myself to, even though that shit was happening, to know I no longer identify with that stuff anymore. I am no longer like, I may struggle with anxiety. I may be depressed, but I'm not depressed. Like, I had to tell myself these things. I may be dealing with grief, but I am mentally not dealing with grief. Like, and it sounds silly for some people that may be listening, but you have to it's like you have to tell your brain, rewire your brain, because we identify with that shit that we're going through. We if you're, I'm not putting this on anybody, but like if you're like a widow, for example, and if you always identify as being a widow, like that's all you're going to feel, that's all you're going to think about, that's all you're going to be. You may never be a wife again. Right? And I don't, and this is, I obviously I don't have experience with that, but
no, it's just, it's a good example.
It's the only example I can. And so, like, for me, I think I had to like find a way to in order to get where I wanted to be, I had to mentally rewire myself to identify as that person. And it got me out, because we still struggle with the grief. My brother, like, he was young, like this is still something that we go through, but we're not stuck in it anymore. Is life hard with a young kid and trying to work from home? Yes, but I no longer identify with that victim mode. Woe is me. Do I still experience depression and anxiety sometimes? Yes, I do. I'm human. I'm a woman. I have hormones. But I no longer identify in that victim mode. And so it's answering your question without answering it, because it's hard to identify that one little thing. But it took time, and I had to be, I think, I had to be open to I had to be open to hearing the things I didn't want to hear, I think is what it really was. And I had to be willing to fight through it, basically. So
fight your resistance.
Fight my resistance. That's a good way. Yeah. Fight my resistance.
I love that. Yeah. And you did answer the question, right? Because everyone thinks it's like a simple answer. And I know that even you as a client, when you came to me, there were times that you were like, I want business coaching. Why is she just talking to me about my personal shit? Mm-hmm. How many times were you like, I want a freaking strategy right now?
And it's funny because, and I love the way I have this conversation, because it's not like I've sat down and I'm like, what did Linda
No, this conversation is off the cuff. We didn't practice. We did not practice.
This isn't something I've sat down and thought about before, but for me, it was like, it's because we all want a solution. We all want the pill to lose weight. We all want a cure for a disease. We all want a solution. We all and we feel like it has to be so black and white. And sometimes what we really want is not what we need, and that whole sell them what they want, give them what they need. That's literally what it was. You sold me what I want and you're giving me what I need. And we don't want it. We don't want to do the hard work. And some of us just want a plain answer. And that's not what I needed, because it didn't matter what you gave me strategy, but it didn't matter what strategy you gave me. I'm not going to show up on camera if I feel like shit. I'm not going to be confident in a sales call if I'm depressed. I'm not, some of us can fake it, but I'm just saying, you have to work. I had to work through those things. That's what was actually holding me back. And that's what you're trying to say basically right now.
Yep. so many of my clients are like, wait a minute, I wanted a sales strategy. Yeah, but you don't love yourself. So this is why the sales strategy is not working. Oh, I had a workshop. I had 22 people sign up and 7 were live and I didn't sell anything. I'm not doing workshops anymore. Get out of my face. Right?
Because here's the thing. Here's what you made me just realize is that if you can get over those things and you can learn those things and work through those things and grow those things, you can make money and be successful with any strategy. That's really what it is.
Come
And
on.
because this year, for example, I made more money. I made more money at speaking engagements than anything this year. Like out of all my marketing strategies, like speaking at virtual events, whether it was guest coaching, summits, master classes, like speaking events, conversion events, other people's events, and my own, I made more money through that than anything else. And I think the reason, and that wasn't a strategy that I intended. It wasn't like on January 1st, I said, I'm going to make more money this year, making money through, that wasn't the intention. Sure, I wanted to be like, more visible,
More visible.
yeah, that was the goal, right? But I think because of how far I've come and like my confidence and the power that I hold, like when I'm on stage virtually, like that's what it is. It's not the strategy. It's the things I've worked through and my experience and my expertise. Like that's what did it. And so sometimes people can give you all the strategy in the world. You can tell me, say this on stage and start off this way and close it this way. But if I don't have the power and the confidence to like make sure people are listening to demand the stage, you can't teach that in a strategy. That's something that you have to like
develop.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you remember when you were going to go to a networking event? Right? You're like, oh my God, I haven't been out since the pandemic. And like in the car on the way there, I'm like, do this. Like, how powerful was that though?
No, yeah, I remember that. It was my first networking event since starting my business in person. And I was literally like on my way there and I almost wasn't going to go because I got in this victim mode because my car randomly had an issue or something. And I don't have an old car. Like there was no reason why it should have not been working. But in my mind, it was like, oh, this is the universe, like, messing with me and woe is me. And like, then you start like, where am I going to park? And what if my car breaks down? And like, just all this stupid shit. And so I think I sent you a message and you called me or you said, call me or something like that.
I called you because I called right away.
And I was on my way to the event. She's on the Bluetooth. I'm over here and I think my car did something. I forget what it was. And so it was great because she, Linda basically like told me when you walk in, this is what I want you to do. And I love it because I got a great lead from that networking event. And I think because I was, I had gained a lot of weight during the pandemic, right? And that's something I'm still working through. But I'll tell you one thing, I've went to 3 events in person this year, and I did not like the way I looked wasn't a big thing that held me back. But back then it did. And for me, it was like, oh, I don't want to like walk into the room and everyone's staring at me, like my stomach, whatever. Like that's all I cared about. It wasn't like, I wasn't thinking about the things that really mattered, like when I walked into the room. And so like, the steps that you gave me, it gave me the confidence to show up belly and all, you know what I mean? Like it gave me the confidence and it was great. Like I needed that pep, that coaching, not pep talk, that coaching before.
I love it. We have been going on for a minute. I want to just briefly say this. For those of you that are watching that are like, well, I need a marketing message. I need my one little one-liner. I've watched you, like when you came to me, you were not the authority coach.
I was not.
Right. And so we settled on that for you. And ever since then, I've watched you because you are so good at so many things. And it's like, well, I help people launch. I help people do this. I help people do that. Oh, I'm content. Like and it really, really, this is my take on it. It doesn't matter what we call ourselves. It really, have you experienced that? It doesn't matter what you call yourself. But the fact is that when women have watched you, just the same thing that you said about me. I watched you, I listened to you, I was sold on you, I was already mentally ready for you. Do you find that your clients are the same? They've been watching you, they heard you speak at so-and-so summit, they saw you in this Facebook group, like it doesn't really matter. Just get out there and be visible, be seen, because when you're seen, you have authority.
I love it. I love it when someone's completely just like gone down the rabbit hole of my, my lives and, or events that I've spoken at. And they basically like, that's why it's so important to show up and be authentic and, and to not hide, because I feel like that my favorite clients are probably the ones that did that first. They never commented on anything. They weren't the person in my DM picking my brain. They were the people that randomly booked a call, or they got in my DM and they were ready to book a call.
I love it. Krissy, is there anything else that you wanted that was on your heart to share that we didn't talk about? We talked about a lot of stuff.
I One thing I will say is, I've definitely grown up a lot since we've worked together, right? And I know you've grown up a lot too. And it's crazy because you can work with someone, and I never understood why people work with the same coach for years. I never understood that, because I'm like, well, like there comes a point where you need something else. You need something else. Like, and that was my mentality. And it's, you're gonna grow, but so does your mentor. And that's why, like, even for some of my clients, I have this one client that's been working on with me almost 2 years now. And I never would have thought in my wildest dreams that she'd still be working with me, but she's still, there's so much I can still give to her because I'm still investing in myself and growing and going. And that benefits her. And the same thing with you is like, when we have this when we jumped on right before this, me and her were talking, is like the I don't feel like I'm talking to the same person I was talking to 2 years ago, even with you. Like the conversation is different, and sure, we're comfortable with each other, but it's still, you're still a different person, And I think it's funny because I think your clients do impact you. That's why I think it's important that you work with the right people, because your clients have a big impact on who you be as well. So I just wanted to share that.
Yay. Thank you so much. That was powerful. Come on, Krissy, with the coaching. Come on, coach. Krissy, where can people find you?
Find me at KrissyFerreira.com. You can find me, meet all my clients on there. Whatever I got going on, it'll be updated on my website. So KrissyFerreira.com is where you can find me.
I love it. Krissy, thank you so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure having you today. It's always been a pleasure to work with you and to keep you in my life. And I'm so grateful to be part of it and watch your growth. Thanks again.